Hello, hello. Right, I don't know if I am even. Let me just. Bear with me, people. Okay, so you can't hear my videos, which is a bit strange. I don't know why that is. Okay, anyway, we shall continue. Nonetheless, stop sharing. Good morning. I hope we are well. We have another live stream for you today. I have pinned the invitation link. Anybody that wants to come on and discuss this topic, they certainly can do. Now. Where shall we begin? All right. So, what do demons exist? It's a very complex discussion. We kind of discussed this with George, Opening Eyes UK, and Jupiter a while back on one of the live streams, but we didn't really show the evidence of the potential if they are demons, or as I call them, negative energies, or as some Christians and Sikhs call otherworldly negative evil entities that influence people's behavior and a lot more, I suppose. Okay, bear with me. Let me just take my jacket off. It's a bit warm in the office today. Oh, that's better. Okie dokie. So we're going to start off with listening to a gentleman that I follow loads. I think his spiritual integrity, his wisdom in religion, especially Christianity, and his general energy is amazing. It really is. So I am going to start with that, sharing that video. We're going to watch it, and he's going to be talking about 7 factors a family is under a curse. I'm not going to speak too much about it. Why is that open? I'm not going to speak too much about it. I'm going to allow Derek Prince to do the talking. Actually, before I do that, let me make the video the right size. Lovely. That should do it. Or should it? I'm not having a lot of luck here. Okay. This is a problem with being a perfectionist. Let's go. Let me know if you can't hear it.
7 factors in people's lives, which when I discover, lead me to conclude that they're probably under a curse. Number 1, mental and emotional breakdown, and especially emotional breakdown. Now, if it just happens once in one life, there could be other causes. But if it is a thing that recurs frequently in a family, you can be sure that family is under a curse. Number 2, repeated or chronic sicknesses, especially without clear medical diagnosis. When you go to the doctor and he says it's one thing, you go back 6 months later, he says it's another, or you have a pain and nobody can find out why you have a pain, but you have a pain. And especially again, if these things run in families.
All right, well, let's say first hello to George, who has joined us. Good morning, George. How are you doing? You out of bed? Bit of an early start.
I'm out of bed this time. I wasn't yesterday, was I? It was terrible. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. What's that all about?
What is it? Is it the whole Christmas thing? I mean, what is it?
It's
Or
the
have you
one
been
day.
indulging too much with food and what have you?
I think it was more of the shock of the one day a year that my kids ain't in the house. They went away to my sisters and dad's on Boxing Day and had a sleepover. So the next morning, the house was silent. Even the dog was still asleep and not scratching at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was great. And then in no time, I got a message saying they're on their way back in 10, 15 minutes. Within 25, 30 minutes of arguing and nightmare. Even my sister said, they don't half bicker, do they? Oh, it was terrible, mate. But yeah, I'm here this morning. Good morning.
Morning, mate. All right, so we're starting off with Derek Prince. Actually, we've got a few videos to play. Starting off with Derek Prince, the 7 curses, 7 factors that our family are under a curse. Feel free to stop and chat about it. Just say, Manny, stop the video, and then we can have a discussion on anything that you pick up.
Okay.
I would say almost certainly that family is under a curse. Third, repeated miscarriages and related female problems. And Ruth and I have come to the place, if women come for that kind of prayer, which we pray for very frequently, once we hear the diagnosis, we simply treat it as a curse. We don't even do any investigating. And we have seen scores of people dramatically change. Number 4, the breakdown of marriage and family alienation. And let me just say one thing that I can't take time to explain. Witchcraft is home breaker number 1. Wherever that power comes to work in a family, it will ultimately break up the family. Number 5, continuing financial insufficiency, especially where the income appears sufficient. You know, there are lots of people who always have enough money, but it's never enough. You know that? You might be one of them. Well, you begin to check. I got a letter from a lady in the United States a couple of years ago. She said, I think my husband's family is under a curse. She'd heard my teaching. So I wrote back and said, tell me why you think your husband's family is under a curse. And this was the answer I got. She said, well, my husband's estate runs into hundreds of millions of dollars, and our annual income is $1 million, and we never have enough money. I said, I'm convinced. That's so characteristic. See? If there's a curse over your life, nothing ever really works. And you can be highly educated and qualified to succeed, but you never quite break through to success. Number 6, accident prone. And when I meet that, I really don't look any further. You see, that is a statistically diagnosable condition. If you are accident prone, an insurance company will put up your insurance premium, simply on that basis. And number 7, a history of suicides or unnatural deaths. And I hope I can say this without being offensive, but if you want to look at a very conspicuous family that bears all the marks of a family curse, it's the Kennedy family in America.
New text message.
Now, we come to the punchline, the practical, how to pass from curse to blessing. First of all, you have to understand full provision has already been made through the death of Jesus on the cross. That's the way that God has made provision for every human need, including this one. If you look in Galatians chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. Galatians 3, 13 and 14. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. That, in order that the blessing of Abraham might come upon the Gentiles in Christ Jesus, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. Notice the exchange. The death of Jesus on the cross, the atonement, was an exchange in which all the evil due to us came upon Christ, that all the good due to him might be made available to us, whatever aspect you look at it. He was wounded that we might be healed. He died that we might have life. He was made sin that we might be made righteousness. He was rejected that we might be accepted. And here, he was made a curse that we might enter into the blessing. That's the basis of God's provision for the problem that I've been speaking about tonight. And you'll notice that in that verse 13, the word curse occurs 3 times. Christ has redeemed us from the curse, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. Brothers and sisters, if a curse is so real that Christ had to be made a curse on the cross for us, then don't entertain the thought that there's no reality in a curse. God wouldn't have made provision at such cost for our deliverance from a curse if there was nothing to be delivered from. You understand? But it took the substitutionary sacrifice of Jesus Christ to provide deliverance from the curse. So that's the basis of deliverance. All our deliverance has to be based on faith in what Christ has done for us on the cross. Just as we are made righteous because he was made sinful, so we can receive the blessing because he was made the curse. You see, the law of Moses said in Deuteronomy 21:23, anyone who's hung on a tree becomes a curse. So every Jew who knew the law of Moses, when they saw Jesus hanging on the cross, they knew that he had been made a curse. Thank God, the reason why he was made a curse was that we might be delivered from the curse. You see that? Now, you need to bear in mind that after you've been delivered, you still have to go on meeting the conditions, which are what? Listening to God's voice and doing what he says. Very simple. And that's in the New Testament. Jesus said in John 10, verse 27, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So that's the prescription for blessing. But in order to live in blessing, if there's a curse over your life, you must first be redeemed from the curse. You must be delivered.
Okay. All right. So your thoughts on that, George? Do you agree with him, disagree with him? Do you have any examples of how this may be relevant? I thought he made a very good example of the Kennedy family being under that type of curse.
We're saved by the blood, aren't we? So when Christ came down and obviously he was crucified, that was the promise that was given to us in the Old Testament, that God would provide the lamb. The provisions, like he says, the provisions are mentioned all the way through the Bible. And for these things to happen, God would have had to put in place a way of it not happening. But even when you're saved, even as a Christian, you can still get strange things to happen to you. I get sleep paralysis, and it's petrifying. Wake up in the middle of the night, you can't move, your eyes are open. Admittedly, I've never actually seen anything. I've watched videos. Apparently, you're meant to see someone hovering over you. I've never seen that, but you can just feel that you're not on your own. It's like something's trying to get in, something's trying to disrupt you, and it's petrifying. These things are out there.
So you're saying that you do experience. Well, it sounds like, if we were to look at it on a spiritual sense, it sounds like a spiritual entity is trying to attack you, whether that for the purpose of possession or to influence or whatever. But that's what it would seem like. Would you agree that's a good synopsis?
Yeah, totally. I haven't had it now for probably 2 years. I used to get it a lot, constantly. I got to the point where I didn't even want to get to sleep at night because it was that scary. And straight the first time it happened, it felt like something was trying to get in, and it wasn't like a dream. You couldn't scream. I'd got the wife next to me. I couldn't tap her. I couldn't move. It was petrifying. So yeah.
So what were you
something's
doing in your
definitely-
life at the time? Were you a Christian then?
Yes, I was. Like I said last time I had it was about 2 years ago. I'd called myself a Christian for about 10 years. So yes, um, I've prayed for it to go. I've asked, and like I said, I haven't experienced it for 2 years. So hopefully it has gone. It'd be nice to know it's gone. It'd be nice to know the bedroom. I ain't sharing the bedroom with an entity.
So can I ask, right? Can I ask? So what changes? Let's just assume that it has gone. So how did it go? What did you do to yourself? Did you fill yourself up with positivity? Did you fill yourself up with the love of the divine? I mean, what is it that you did to make a difference within yourself?
I think I stepped up a gear. I, I used to listen to lots of rave music. Now I tend to fill my day with gospel music. I do a lot more Bible studies. I've got quite a lot more understanding than I had before then. Um, I suppose I, I suppose I don't sin as much, right? I'm not saying I don't sin because everybody does, but I don't sin as much. I'm aware of what I'm doing. I know. I, I seem to have more of an understanding of what the world's about with God and Christ, and they'd be the main differences in me. That
So give me that list that you just said. So you do Bible studies.
yeah,
What
right.
was
Do
the other things?
pardon?
What was the other things that you said?
I do Bible studies, more Bible studies than I did before. I don't tend to listen to the rave music anymore. I've got more gospel things on the YouTube playing out on the telly. Um, I I steer away from the things that used to make me sin more. It's quite difficult. You kind of change inside slowly. It's a slow process.
So okay. So yes, I agree. It is. It's a slow but yet fast process, if that makes sense. It's from an outer body looking in, it seems like it's slow, but really the changes I would have thought, or from what I see, are relatively quite fast. But anyway, this word sin is very interesting. Now, what I find with the word sin, what the Christians believe the meaning of that word is, and what the non-Christians, or certainly the atheists, believe what that word is meant to be, are two very different things. So I just want to discuss um, about that. So a sin, what is a sin meaning as far as the way you are using it? Let's start there.
Like a sin in the Christian manner and the way I use it is when you do something that's against God's will, it kind of makes God turn his back on you,
Hmm.
and
But
that's a sin.
so and that also is, and that also opens the pathway for negativity to enter your space, right? That's what
Yeah,
we're saying here. So god God, in the Christian God, is saying don't do this, it's a sin. But if we were to remove the religious aspect of it, it means that by doing a certain activity, you are decreasing the power of your natural energy source, your aura, and opening yourself up to negativity. So if you commit a number of sins, i.e., open yourself up to negativity, then things are going to increasingly go wrong in your life. Do you think that's a good way of putting it?
that sounds about right. Atheists and Christians believe one thing about sin: everything sinful's fun. And if you just think that everything that you did in your previous life that you enjoyed that was fun, that turns out to be quite sinful.
Mm, yeah, negative, right? Yeah. So, so do you think, now that we're on the topic of atheists, do you think atheists prefer to be atheists because it's far easier? It's an excuse to brainwash yourself into carrying on and doing the things that you shouldn't be doing.
There's probably something in their life that they wouldn't want to change. You have to make changes in your life, and an atheist notice there's probably something there in the background somewhere that they really enjoy, and they know they shouldn't be doing, and if they go Christian, they can't be doing it anymore.
But then the atheists then say that there is no proof of God. They seem to want to atheists seem to want to calculate God, right? It's almost as if they want to bring God put him into a box, and so they can assess it. Where you really need discernment and you really need spirituality to be even come too close to realize God. From what I can see, why is it that they lack discernment? Is that just a lack of spirituality with them? I mean, why is it that they cannot perceive God?
There's a verse in the Bible that says if you deny God enough, he will blind you to the truth. And that's the only thing that I can possibly see. Because I suppose if you deny anything enough, you're not going to believe in it anymore. If you deny that Buckingham Palace exists enough times in your head, you're not going to believe it's real. So it's the only way I can think it possible, that one verse where you will be blinded to the truth.
Indeed. Okay, I'm going to play another video. Now, this video is a little bit lengthy, so I probably won't play all of it, but I'll certainly get the main synopsis from him. So I shall. Okay, let's start here.
The theme of this and the following session will be.
So I'll play it for a bit and then I'll stop it and then we'll see if we want to continue. But yeah, I think the best bit of it in the first half anyway.
Basics deliverance. The subtitle is All You Ever Wanted to Know About Demons But Were Afraid to Ask. In these two sessions, I'm going to seek to achieve a well-nigh impossible task to cover in 2 hours every main aspect of this ministry, of course not in detail, but in outline. I believe it's appropriate that we begin by considering this aspect of the ministry of Jesus. And I'd like to turn to Mark chapter 1. I have said many times, as far as I'm concerned, I have no ambition to improve on the ministry of Jesus. Some people, I think, feel that it could be done better today. That's not my attitude. When he began his public ministry, the thing that struck people the most was his way of dealing with evil spirits. And it's worthy of note that this was one miracle of Jesus which had never previously been recorded in the Old Testament. Almost all his other miracles, healing, provision of food, control of nature, had already been recorded in the Old Testament. But there's no Old Testament record of driving out evil spirits. And the people who witnessed it were immediately gripped by it and became excited about it. Here's the first account in a synagogue in Capernaum. It says in verse 23 of Mark 1, Now there was a man in their synagogue with an unclean spirit. The Greek says in an unclean spirit, which is not translatable into English. I think perhaps the best contemporary English would be under the influence of an unclean spirit.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there. So we're talking about unclean spirits, so we're talking about possession. So now I'm going to go into a different video, and then we're going to come back to that.
Intriguing.
Because the thing is, I tell you what I find very disrespectful. Every single Christian video I'm watching, there's some kind of Islamic Dawah channel advertising and targeting that Christian channel.
I've spotted that on my telly. We've got lots of Dawah on the adverts, and we watch Christian stuff. It's almost like they're trying to bring in Chrislam with advertising.
I don't know if they're trying to bring Chrislam in it. I know that basically the way it works with YouTube, that you can choose which demographics, which type of group you want to show your ads to. And one of the things you can do is you can say everybody that's subscribed to, for example, the Manny Cinder channel, I want this advert appear to. So over time, as the subscribers to the Manny Cinder channel will be browsing through YouTube, that advert will appear. So it seems like to me that they are targeting people subscribed to certain channels, which will have obviously will be Christian, by showing them these. I mean, and they're just grifting for money for donations, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and I don't know, they're claiming that people are donating, but if so many people are donating to you, then why are you advertising for donations? You should have enough. It's just it's just ludicrous.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we just seen Derek Prince outline that Jesus was going around not just curing people from illnesses, but also relieving them from spiritual entities. So I know you and I have spoken about this extensively, but I'm just going to show a video explaining what schizophrenia is. And what I want people to do as they're watching this video is, even though the commentator does not say this, I want you to see or ask yourself, what they are describing here, could this be spiritual possession? Well, okay, sorry about that. I just had somebody come into the office. Right. Okay, let's start off with, where is it? Yeah.
What is it like to have schizophrenia? The experience of schizophrenia is not one that most people will easily understand. It's not like depression, where most of the symptoms, like insomnia or fatigue, will be instantly familiar to most people. With schizophrenia, the most prominent symptoms of the disorder, the delusions, hallucinations, and disorganized thoughts, don't have any direct parallels in our own lives. Because of this, schizophrenia is hard to understand, leading to misinformation, misconceptions, and misdiagnoses. To improve our understanding of this disease, we need to do much more than simply memorize lists of symptoms. Instead, we need to learn the underlying mechanisms of schizophrenia so that we can better recognize it when we see it in our patients. Some have hypothesized that the core deficit in schizophrenia involves the concept of salience. Salience is the interestingness of information, or how important we perceive that information to be. We give salient items more attention and are more likely to act upon them. If I were to tell you 10 random numbers, say 1558378290, but not tell you anything about them, you probably wouldn't find them particularly salient. Without that salience, they will likely drop from your attention and quickly be forgotten. However, if I told you that these numbers are from tomorrow's winning lottery ticket and that there's still time to enter, then suddenly they become very interesting indeed. By telling you this, I have increased the salience of the information. The numbers themselves have not changed at all. Only their salience has changed. On a biological level, the neurotransmitter dopamine plays a key role in the process of salience. When information is found to be salient, your brain releases dopamine. This rush of dopamine makes you pay more attention to the information and motivates you to act upon it.
With Shopify's all-in-one commerce platform, you can set up your online store fast,
Oh,
reliable, and no...
Sorry about that, guys. Here we go.
We can manipulate the salience of information by tying it to some kind of a reward. Take the ticker on the New York Stock Exchange as an example. Someone who is unfamiliar with the financial system would likely find the constant stream of letters and numbers to be meaningless or random. For stockbrokers, however, the ticker is incredibly salient because stockbrokers believe that these letters and numbers will potentially allow them to make millions of dollars. This information has been made salient by connecting it to the possibility of a reward. Information can also be made salient by linking it to a negative outcome. For example, public safety experts trying to encourage helmet use will often use grisly footage of motorcycle accidents as a way of getting your attention. A video like this is disturbing on a visceral level, yet it is also effective at increasing the salience of their message and motivating people to act differently so they can avoid a similar outcome. Our brains use salience to filter incoming information. We take in an enormous amount of information every day. Within 30 minutes of waking up, most of us have already read the news, checked the weather forecast, browsed social media, and listened to music. If we gave our full attention to all of these things, we would quickly become overwhelmed and incapacitated. Instead, we quickly move on from information that has no direct relevance to us. From this morning's information, your brain might interpret only the weather report as salient, as forgetting to bring an umbrella will leave you cold, wet, and miserable. The other information is found to have no particular significance, so it is filtered out and quickly forgotten. This is a complex process, yet our brains do it instantly, automatically, and unconsciously, thousands of times per day. So how does this relate to schizophrenia? People with schizophrenia are believed to be in a state of aberrant salience, characterized by excessive and illogical release of dopamine. When dopamine is flowing in this way, salience is assigned to every bit of new information without any clear connection to rewards or punishments. It would be like suddenly entering a world where every letter and number had the potential to make you $1 million, or where every decision had the life or death consequences of a motorcycle accident. People in the early stages of schizophrenia describe being in a state like this. They say things like, "My senses were sharpened. I developed a greater awareness of the world and became fascinated by the little insignificant things around me. Sights and sounds possessed a keenness that I had never experienced before. It was as if parts of my brain awoke, which had been dormant. My senses seemed alive. Things seemed clear-cut. I noticed things I had never noticed before. I felt that there was some overwhelming significance in this. I felt like I was putting a piece of the puzzle together." This makes life initially quite vivid and dramatic for someone in a state of aberrant salience, yet it rapidly becomes a confusing and unbearable way to live. Normally, we can figure out why our brain is telling us that something is important. We know that paying attention to the weather forecast will help us to avoid having a bad day. However, someone in a state of aberrant salience will perceive a sense of overwhelming significance in all of their experiences without being able to understand why. Why me, they ask. Why now? Why does this all seem so important? To make sense out of this experience, people with schizophrenia will begin to develop explanations for why each piece of information suddenly feels so important, so relevant, so personally significant. If they watch the news in this state of heightened salience, they might come to believe that the president must be using their State of the Union address to communicate a special coded message meant only for them.
The best morning routine for manifesting more money is an alpha meditative.
When listening to music, they may get the feeling that there must be a reason why that particular song came on the radio at that exact moment. On the internet, any random stimulus, say a pop-up ad about a new brand of lotion, may seem so special and compelling that it must, somehow, be the key to saving the world. To everyone else, these ideas sound, frankly, psychotic. For a person in a state of aberrant salience, however, these delusions of reference help them to make sense out of a senseless mental environment, where everything, everywhere, seems to have some life-changing importance. If delusions develop when excessive salience is given to external stimuli, then what happens when salience is given to internally generated information? After all, everyone has an internal stream of consciousness that we generally recognize as being our own. In a state of aberrant salience, however, these thoughts can seem important to the point where they are given the same level of priority as a voice coming from outside your head. This is thought to be the mechanism for the auditory hallucinations that people with schizophrenia experience. It is as if the volume of these internal thoughts has been turned up so far that they grab your attention in the same way as hearing your name yelled from across the room. Aberrant salience can also explain the profound thought disorganization that is another hallmark of schizophrenia. People with schizophrenia often have difficulty understanding even seemingly simple concepts and ideas. They may hear the same information over and over again, but show no sign of actually comprehending it. They can respond to their environment in ways that make little sense to an outside observer. This disorganization of thoughts, speech, and behavior makes more sense when you consider that aberrant salience leaves people in a state of perpetual information overload. When the filter of salience breaks, you become constantly bombarded by new information every second of the day, with no way of making sense of it all. It would be like trying to watch dozens of TV shows all at the same time. In this state of confusion, it is no wonder that people with schizophrenia can appear so bewildered and distracted by even simple concepts. They say that the value of a theory lies in how well it is able to explain what we observe, and aberrant salience appears to pass this test. It provides a framework for answering many of the questions we have had about schizophrenia for centuries. For example, we have long wondered why the content of delusions in schizophrenia varies so drastically from culture to culture. Someone in a modern city is more likely to believe that satellite waves are broadcasting their thoughts than someone from a rural area who is more likely to say that their thoughts are being stolen by a neighbor's curse. Yet, if schizophrenia is an illness with a biological basis, shouldn't the symptoms be similar across cultures? The concept of aberrant salience bridges this gap by arguing that delusions are normal psychological constructs generated by a person in an abnormal biological state. If delusions are psychological constructs, it makes sense that they would draw upon that person's own unique experiences and cultural values, even if the underlying biological abnormality is the same. The concept of aberrant salience can inform not only our understanding of schizophrenia, but also how we treat it. If aberrant salience is associated with excess dopamine, then using medications to block dopamine should reduce the symptoms of schizophrenia. This appears to be true. All of the drugs prescribed for schizophrenia, known as antipsychotic medications, block dopamine receptors to some degree. This creates a state of dampened salience where information lacks the power to capture attention that it once had, leading to reductions in symptoms like delusions, hallucinations, and thought disorganization.
This is OutSystems, the most
For the
complete
love of God,
full-stack
with these
application
adverts.
development platform for professional
However, this comes at a cost. Like many medications, antipsychotics are non-specific in their actions. They cause a global dampening of salience for all information that the brain processes, not just information related to psychosis. When preparing for their day, a person taking antipsychotic medications would avoid assigning salience to irrelevant stimuli, such as pop-up ads or a song on the radio. This is an improvement. However, they also would have difficulty assigning salience even to relevant information, like the weather report, and may then forget to bring their umbrella. This shows both the power and the limitations of using antipsychotics to treat schizophrenia. They reverse the excess of dopamine driving a state of aberrant salience, but in doing so, they can interfere with the normal functioning of salience as well. Understanding the concept of aberrant salience can be illuminating for people trying to learn about schizophrenia. However, it is not without its limitations. It does a much better job of explaining the dramatic positive symptoms of schizophrenia, like delusions, hallucinations, and thought disorganization, than it does explaining the negative symptoms like flat emotions, inability to feel pleasure, and difficulty forming relationships that are often more impairing for people with schizophrenia. The concept of aberrant salience is also silent on the question of why some people develop schizophrenia, while others do not. It only explains what happens once an episode of psychosis has already begun. It is likely that no single theory will explain a disease as complex as schizophrenia. There are, without a doubt, multiple mechanisms to be discovered. What is it like to have schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is so much more than just a list of symptoms. The concept of aberrant salience gives us a better glimpse into the complex and multifaceted lives of our patients. It allows us to see that people with schizophrenia are not some alien other that we will never understand. Rather, it shows us that the symptoms of schizophrenia are rooted in thought processes that every human being can understand and relate to. It underscores the shared humanity we have, even with people who act and speak in ways that we cannot comprehend. We are ultimately more alike than we are different. If more people understood this, perhaps there would be less of the fear and stigma that has dominated the discussion about schizophrenia for so long.
All right, George. So that is, I would say, the most friendly, scientific-based explanation of what schizophrenia is. What were your thoughts? Did you think it was accurate? It doesn't really tell you the cause of it. I mean, he touches on it at the end, saying there's some level of psychosis involved. He didn't mention the depression that precedes the psychosis episode. So psychosis episode, obviously, where people lose their cool, shall we say, or have a turn where emotionally they are devastated and can't keep control of what they want to do. So what that, that wasn't a spiritual or religious explanation. What were your thoughts on it? Was it accurate? Was it too wishy-washy?
The scientific explanation that I've just heard was bang on in the respect that they don't actually know, do they? Everything was like it could be or probably, or they don't know. In May 2021, they proved that the chemical imbalance theory is false. There's no such thing as chemical imbalances. They've been saying it for depression and bipolar and anxiety and schizophrenia. That's why they give you the tablets. Apparently, the tablets help you with the chemical imbalance. But I've got something up here on anxietycenter.com. Chemical imbalance theory, theory false. It has long been postulated that anxiety, depression, disorders, and many other mental illnesses were caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. The chemical imbalance theory presumed that serotonin and neurotransmitters in the brain was below normal levels and therefore caused anxiety and depression disorders. This has been proved to be false. So the way they've been treating it and what they've been thinking they're treating, they found out in 2021. There's no evidence to.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard that as well. That the chemical imbalance theory is bogus because there's no proof. They don't tell you which chemicals are in balance. But can I just make an observation away from this? I've noticed with the medical industry, they don't seem to have a test for anything to prove anything. I'm not just talking about COVID using bogus apparatus to test for COVID, but I've even heard with things like HIV and even asthma, let alone cancer, that the tests that they do are just completely inaccurate and completely bogus. I mean, cancer's kind of not, I shouldn't really mention that because, you can scan for tumors. But a lot of other things, including asthma, there's been a lot of misdiagnosis where they just look at the symptoms and they don't look for actual tissue damage or things on the anatomy to prove that somebody has, for example, asthma or anything like that. I find that a bit bizarre. I mean, okay, it's fair enough if it's something external, like for example, it's skin cancer, but if it's something internal, and there's evidence of getting it wrong, which they do a lot, then why would you continue with that process?
It's petrifying, isn't it? You go in that place and you think these people, they've all got qualifications, they've been to university all their life, they know what they do. It's quite petrifying when you think about it.
I was having this discussion with my mum because she's recently realised, or is beginning to realise, the fraudulent aspect of the medical system. And I was trying to explain to her that when people deliver something with confidence and they can speak well, and perhaps they're sitting behind a desk, the people that are receiving it tend to believe them because they don't know any better. And another thing that Jupiter said on a live stream once, that the working class tend to be suppressed by the agents of the establishment, because the agents of the establishment are usually upper middle class, and upper middle class tend to speak quite posh, without using the F word and so on and so forth. And as a consequence, the working class who do not speak like that tend to get downtrodden by these people. I don't know if you feel that type of psychology is also existent with the NHS and other medical systems.
Oh, definitely. When the babies were born, I always go back to when the babies were born because that's the longest I've ever spent in an hospital. To be honest, we ended up moving into the treetops in Sheffield Children's Hospital for a short while. But you felt, even though you're in a dark place, the children were obviously very early and they were not doing well in the incubators. You kind of felt safe. You kind of felt like you were surrounded by educated people with lots of machinery who knew what they were doing. You like you said, the way they speak, the way they act, everything it's probably a false sense of security if they if they really haven't got the way of testing the things. They were testing something called cultures on the babies. Every now and again, they come and they test the cultures of the babies, and they were picking out, oh, this baby's got this illness and this one's got this one, and they were telling us before the babies were ill. It was quite strange, quite strange.
So what do you mean telling you? So what they would say that this baby's got this, and then the baby would start showing symptoms of it?
Yeah, the baby would start showing symptoms because they were doing cultures in. Do you know how they do it in them little plastic tubs?
Yeah.
And they grow like the bacteria culture. They were doing them.
Petri
And
dishes.
from that, they could tell us like this baby has got problems, and will need to have part of the bowel taken away due to having something called neck, and then this one here, and it thinking about it was quite strange. I've never actually thought about that. I try and block all that. It's strange because it wasn't necessarily a very nice time. If you came to our house, we got no photos of the triplets as babies because they're all wired up to machines and oxygen and stuff. So you kind of try and block all that side, don't you?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Okay, right. So just to recap, so we've played the first video of Derek Prince outlining 7 clues that your family may be under a curse. So that was from a Christian religious perspective.
Yeah.
So we've shown that, and those are some of the factors that people come across in their lives. At least one of them. I've asked a lot of people. I've written down the list, and I've asked a lot of people, and every single person has at least one of those things strongly in their life. We then showed a snippet of a video that we're going to go back to, where Derek Prince said Jesus was doing as much curing from illnesses as he was from releasing people from negative entities. And we stopped that, and then we played the schizophrenia, where we just wanted to outline that we're asking the question, is schizophrenia a heightened way of how spirits are influencing us? So now what I want to do is play that Jerry Mackenzie video, which I shared with you originally. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the exact moments where he's talking about what we need to hear, so I'm going to have to find it as we go along. So he kind of tells us what's what. So let me just see if I can find it somewhere. And then if you want to stop me at any time, George, you can do. I just want to get to a bit where he states that I started treating people, you know, as if those voices were real. And that's when he started seeing results. So I'm really trying to get that message across to anybody that's watching.
Excellent.
First, the patient's trying to figure out who and what the voices are. Are they them? Are they something else? Is their brain broken? You know, and so you got 2 confused bodies here. One is the patient's confused and trying to figure out what is going on. Are the voices who he is? You know, or what are they? Or is his brain broken? Is he going insane? Don't know. There's a struggle to try to figure out. Now, if he asks the voices what they are, they'll come back and say, "We are you." On the other hand, the family is just totally confused about what's going on. So you have this whole family thrown into confusion. And this plays in with the false social narrative, you know, the belief that we are our thoughts. You know, to assume that every thought that you experience is generated in you and belongs to you. And this is what psychiatrists and psychologists believe. You know, if they fall into that trap, the chances of the patient recovering fully are very slim. So the administration, psychiatry, psychology, and the medical establishment never ask where thoughts come from. You know, they never ask. They just assume that it's the person who's thinking them, that they belong to them. You know, like we were talking about earlier, if you step back and you can watch your thoughts flow into your mind, and you can see that you are the watcher and you're not the thoughts. I mean, you're separated from the thoughts. And then think about when your thoughts are rambling in your head and talking, who are they talking to? You know, they're talking to that silence that you spoke about previously, that awareness of who you are that doesn't belong to this. You know? So families need to understand that, first of all, that thoughts are not who they are or who their daughter or son is, and that the voices have hijacked their thought train like a virus. You know? So the stuff that they are saying, the awful stuff they're saying, the awful stuff they're doing, is not being done by who they knew the patient to be, but by these voices who are telling them awful things about their family, their friends, their relatives. They're no good. They really don't care for you. And the families aren't aware of this dialogue. And the patient isn't going to tell them that. Nor is a psychiatrist, who knows nothing about it because they've never studied the voices. But what those voices are telling them is rotten things about their friends. Don't trust them. They want to break up families. They'll tell them everything rotten about the family. Don't listen to them. They're no good. They're crazy.
So I just want to stop it here and remind everybody that the video that we listened to previously to this, the 7 factors of you or your family are being attacked by negative entities. One of the main things outlined by Derek Prince was that a breakup of a family is a very strong indication that that family or that person is being attacked by a spiritual entity. So here is Jerry McKenzie. Sorry, not McKenzie. I apologize. Jerry Mazinski, listing, what the voices are saying to schizophrenia patients.
So what they're trying to do is separate the patient from the support that the schizophrenic needs. They don't want any interference from the family. They don't want any loving cuddling from the family. They want to drive that family off. So the family first has to understand that their thoughts are not their own, nor is the schizophrenic's thoughts their own. So that's the first point they have to understand. So very seldom does the schizophrenic or the schizophrenic's family have anybody they can talk to about this stuff who understands. They go to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist will tell them, well, you're crazy. You're schizophrenic. You're hearing voices. You're paranoid schizophrenic. You're now a lunatic. You're mentally ill. Your voices are hallucinations. They're not real. Ignore them. In which case, if they try that, the voices get louder. They will not be ignored. And then they prescribe them a toxic antipsychotic drug. And these drugs are, they just dumb them down. They will weaken the voices. They will calm them down. They will allow the family to, again, reach them without all the, the explosiveness or the turmoil. Okay, so if the family understands what the voices are and what they're saying to them, then they can get in there and help. So it may take the medications to calm them down to the point and weaken the voices to the point where they can reach the patient. And once they can do that, they can convince the patient that those thoughts are not theirs, that the voices do not belong to them. That will go a whole long way. And they can point out to the patient that 99% of what the voices tell them are absolute lies. They're designed to upset them and cause turmoil. But the horrible side effects of the meds, if nothing else is given beside the meds, then the patients will often go off them because the voices will tell them, you're being poisoned. Your psychiatrist is poisoning you with these things, and they will point to the awful side effects and say, look, you're experiencing these things. You're being poisoned by these guys. Don't take that stuff. And the attack rate upon psychiatrists by their patients is like 5 times higher than any other doctor.
All right. Do we have we got the right information from that snippet? It's funny how God works. I pressed randomly on that video, and we seem to get exactly to the point that we needed to get to. Did that deliver the message that we wanted, do you think, Jordan? Or do you think we need to show more of that video?
I think that was perfect. You couldn't have landed on a better spot, could you?
No.
Magic trick.
I've been having that a lot, especially today. It's not everything. It has, But anyway, where I'm digressing here. So all right, so cool. So thanks to Jerry for that. So we have. So he's a doctor himself. He's worked with schizophrenia patients for 35 years, from every setting, from hospitals to prisons to at home, and he still helps people online. And I think he has a surgery at home. I would have to double check on that. But the point is, he does help, and he does a lot of these live streams. And he's got nothing to do with Derek Prince, who is a Christian pastor, preacher, and they're both synergizing. So one religious concept and one scientific, genuine scientific concept are both saying that these voices are spiritual entities and they are influencing the body and the person, sorry, the human being. And on top of that, we saw a video about schizophrenia where, you know, a person not aware of the religious concept or the scientific concept try to portray what the person is going through, which is basically they're in high level of anxiety and they don't know what the truth is on what's not. So shall we now go back to Derek Prince and see what he has to say in terms of how to identify the enemy? So when he talks about the enemy, he means spiritual entities. Did you want to add anything yourself at this point, George, just to help people understand a little bit more, and perhaps something that I'm not concentrating on or I'm overlooking?
As I've mentioned to you before, I've got a cousin with schizophrenia, and what that gentleman's just said is exactly what she's like. She, I pray to God. She'll tell you she talks to God. God talks to her. She has times where she can look out the window at 2 a.m. and there's always a shadow man standing at the end of the drive. She hides her medication and tablets, and the gentleman was right. The first thing she does is distrust her mom, her dad, and immediate family. She believes that they all think that she's mad, but she's got a gift. So yeah, he covered the angle of schizophrenia extremely well from what I know with my cousin.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to have to show another video first, because you mentioned your cousin has seen shadow people. Okay, now in this very same video, Jerry McKenzie does state that when schizophrenia or these demons really take hold of a person, the voices move from inside the mind, inside the head, to outside, and they start seeing shadows. Let me just see and find. There's another video that I sent to you once. Remember? Oh, here we go. I've got it here. Okay. Well remembered, George. It really is good, mate. Okay, let me. Oh, what have I done here?
She regularly messages me telling me she's scared because the man's at the end of the drive again and things.
Oh, these adverts are just driving me crazy. What I should have done is played it in whatchamacallit? Do you know, incognito? But the problem, I did that yesterday, and I couldn't really. Nobody could hear the video audio.
Is that why you had no sound at chunks?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
If you remember the time before, you had to keep copying and pasting on Speaker's Corner online and playing it from there.
That's right. Yeah, I should do that really, and that's probably the easiest way, because you're guaranteed no adverts. Because the way Speaker's Corner Online has been coded is to prevent all that. But anyway, it causes issues because you're not able to see where people are spending most of the time and then enhance that service. Okay, let's play this. I'll just play the intro and then I'll go further into it quickly because the first bit of it is irrelevant. So I'll just play the intro for everybody and then I'm going to fast forward it. So just let everybody know, this is a schizophrenia patient and he records himself having a episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. 3 years ago, I recorded a video of me having an episode. It's my most popular episode. It's got currently like almost 6 million views in a matter of 3 years. Not bad. The problem with that video is I don't think it was educational enough. and I wanted to make this experience of me having an episode that I'm going through. I'm on the early stages of it. As usually I can feel it coming on. I just want to talk about and try to stay grounded. I think it won't be, or I don't think it'll be really a bad thing. I think it'll be a good thing with educating you guys and it being maybe even possibly therapeutic to myself, me talking about how I feel and explaining how I feel and even looking back on this video, things like that, you know? So there'll be a lot of editing because there's probably just going to be a lot of me just sitting here, but I'll be trying my best to explain how I'm feeling and what exactly is going on. My girlfriend is here. She will be asking me questions for me to talk about how I feel and what I'm experiencing. So let's go ahead and I guess get into it.
What are you feeling mentally right now?
I feel okay. So am I going to answer these questions different, like throughout the same question throughout the video? Because I'm going to feel different throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so
1 minute. Let me time this one. So this one is at 10:03.
Yep.
Okay, you feel what?
I feel how do I explain it? So I feel not exhausted, but dead in a way. I feel drained and I feel like there's no hope for anything. And it's like kind of like a depressive state before the actual episode kicks in, you know?
Okay, I'm going to fast forward it a little bit.
That's the best way I can explain it.
The next one.
Fortunately for me, I have my girlfriend here, and she can help tell me if something is real or not, if she can see it. It seems so real, so it's really hard to believe. It is hard to believe, really. But at least she's here to help me. That's all that matters.
You seeing anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a man staring at us through the window.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe him?
He's got a really big smile and no eyes. That's all I can.
Right. So that's what we want you to play in regards to that. So Jupiter said, how does he know he is going to have an episode? Well, if you watch that video, he feels that it's coming on. So going back to what George said, that his cousin sees shadow people, and he's basically described somebody that he's seeing standing outside the window, which incidentally is the same thing that George said his cousin sees, someone standing outside the house, maybe not as close as the window, but certainly outside the house. Now, I'm going to have a go at finding another bit of the Jerry Mackenzie. I keep calling him Mackenzie. I'm so sorry. Mazinski's interview, where he says that they actually, when the schizophrenia or the voices take hold of the person, they actually leave their head and go in, become shadow people. Let me see if I can find that bit. I'll try a couple of times. If not, we'll go back to George.
They have to understand that if bad things exist, the good things exist too. And if you look at what the TV programs and the mainstream media and what all these broadcasting stations are doing, I mean, they're transmitting to kids hundreds of thousands of murders on the TV. They're watching them in real time, before them. And it's like, oh yeah, if you get mad, what you do is kill somebody. I mean, that's the message they're being given. 7 years old. And when they start hearing them that young, for a long time, they think everybody hears them, and it takes them a while to realize that other people don't. He said, I said, did anything happen to you back then? He goes, oh yes, my mother and father would abuse me terribly. They didn't want me. They kept giving me away to each other.
Now, the other thing that I want to point out, yesterday we did a live stream, or I did a live stream about whether gay people have mental health issues. And as it was pointed out a number of times from different sources, that gay people have majority of them have been sexually abused. Okay, now that may not be the only reason why they become gay or are gay. I mean, a lot of them believe that they were born gay, and we did look at that as well.
Want to mess with it?
Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know my mic was on. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, the boys just come in.
It's okay, no problem, mate. So again, this time, Jerry is saying that the sexual abuse of the child is also a reason to other mental health issues, including schizophrenia. Anyway, let's try to find where he states about the voices.
My father told me my mother was a whore. She was screwing other men. My dad was very mean to me. He would do all kinds of bad things. He would make me disappear from myself. He was so mean. And I asked him, well, what do you mean disappear from yourself? And he said, I would actually leave my body while he was beating me. I didn't remember the beatings when I came back. I would go back and I would be all beat up. So he would actually just leave his body. And I've spoken to a lot of people where that had happened. I kept it to myself for, 60 or 70 years. And it was like, it was just such a horrifying thing that I had done. About the chemical imbalance stuff. And let me see where he picks up here. He's trying to kill you. You better go do something about that. And they'd use them as human torpedoes. And at that point, I realized that it was not. Oh, well, it's a fire. Well, then you repeat, well, if every time the voices came, for thousands of times they've attacked you, and after the attack, your energy was gone, what's draining you? I don't know. They couldn't get it. They didn't know. And if you attempted to tell them that, listen, these things are taking your voices, the voices would at that instant go berserk. They would explode. They would demand that the guy get out of the office, that I was telling bullcrap, that this was all insanity, that I was stupid. They'd leave. And by then, the patient understood that I understood. And most of the time, they wouldn't leave. They wanted to hear more. Then the voices would tell them, attack him consistently.
I think we all know to a certain degree what obsessive thinking is.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have probably.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that because we're going to lose the object of this. So you said, George, that your cousin saw shadow people outside the property. I shared a video of a schizophrenia patient who recorded his episode, who saw a shadow person outside the window, what he described as a shadow person. I was hoping to see find the bit where Jerry Mazinski saying that it starts off in the head, and then as it advances, they start seeing the shadow people in the room or around them, or certainly outside the body. What else can you add to that which can help people realize that these things, certainly for the patient, are very much real, and people like Jerry and religious people seem to be getting results in terms of curing and saving the people once they start treating those patients or these people as if they're ill?
Well, she gets the regular one, which she calls an old man. He stands at the end of the drive, and the reason I think she sees it at the end of the drive is because there's a lamppost right at the end of the drive, so it's the most lit up part as you look out the window. When she went to hospital the once, and while she was there, she was in the bed, right, and they had the curtains fastened. And she could hear the Queen and Prince Philip on the other side of the curtain choosing which one of her organs they wanted with the nurse. And she was terrified. So definitely real to the patient. Definitely. And they give them the tablets, and as you know, the tablets aren't cures. The tablets are blockers. So they're not really treating the problem. They're just trying to block it out. And I know that my cousin's never been big on tablets. She'd hide them and decide to pick up the bottle instead. And that never went well, because when she drank it, the problems always seemed to get worse.
So can I ask you, is your cousin religious?
She is, yeah, she is now.
So if she's religious, I'm assuming that she's Christian, yeah?
Yeah, she's very
Then-
confused. She gets very confused, even though we talk a lot. Within a matter of a week or two, she'll be asking me the same questions.
So if she's Christian, then why is God not helping her? If these things are, as Christians believe, demonic entities. So she's Christian. So why is it that God is not helping her and relieving her of this issue?
I've asked her to pray for help. I've asked her to. Obviously I don't know whether she does. She's got Jesus tattooed on her leg, and she knows the basics of the Bible, but it really is the basics. Like I said, I can send her videos. We can read the Bible to each other. 3 weeks later, she'll be asking me the same questions. It's almost like there's a spiritual block there of some kind.
Mm. Well, if you're seeing to you, like the video we've just seen, and to use Jerry Mazinski, if you're seeing entities outside of a body, then that, from a medical perspective, that's a very advanced form of schizophrenia. And if we are to regard schizophrenia as possible spiritual entities influencing you, then she needs possibly more than the help she's receiving. She needs, what's the word called when the family go intervention?
Yeah. My Auntie Carol did that, and she went to a hospital, and ever since she's never trusted telling my Auntie Carol when she's ill or anything. She's totally averse to it. She didn't like the hospital at all.
Okay, well, this is all very interesting. All right,
she's been diagnosed 20 years, I'd say now. It must be at least 20 years she's been diagnosed.
And it's probably become the normalcy thinking how she. So do you think she? So Jerry Mazinski said that a lot of these, or some of these people, hear voices from a very young age, and then some it comes later on. Do you think that she's one of the people that's heard it from a very young age?
Well, funny enough, out of all my cousins, I've got like 20 odd cousins. There's loads of us, and I'm the oldest out of all.
You're not Sikh, are you?
No. Yeah, out of all of us, I'm the eldest, and she's the second eldest. She's a year younger than me. And we were really close growing up. We used to hang out, everything, and yeah, everything was normal. It wasn't until I was working at Butlins in my 20s that I was told that she'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia and she was ill in hospital.
And how old was she?
A year younger than me. She was in her 20s. I've spoke to her since, and she believes it's because of an ex-boyfriend she had. She had an ex-boyfriend who was heavily into witchcraft, and she thinks that may be the link to when she started getting ill.
Interesting, because Derek Prince outlines that as one of the key ways why people become influenced by negative influences, such as spirits. That's one of his top 3, I believe. And from our research and from my conversations with you, we found that these schizophrenia patients tend to have direct interaction with occult, whether it's through tarot cards, whether it's visiting fortune tellers, whether it's doing the Ouija board, or somebody in their family or in their house doing the thing. There's always some kind of exposure to it, and very strong exposure.
Yes, and it's getting worse. Have you seen some of the children's toys now? You know, you can buy a Ouija board for a 10-year-old kid. It's crazy. My first Ouija board, you can buy it on Amazon. So these problems are going to get a lot worse.
Yes, I agree. Okay, let's go back to Derek Prince and continue with what he has to say in regards to this.
There are three phrases that are used more or less interchangeably. We might as well mention them now: demons, evil spirits, and unclean spirits. It also talks about specific types of spirits, such as a spirit of infirmity or a spirit of fear. All right, there was a man in their synagogue under the influence of an unclean spirit, and he cried out. Notice the he is not the man, it's the spirit, saying, "Let us alone. What have we to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Notice that the evil spirits instantly identified who Jesus was. It took his disciples maybe more than a year to begin to realize who he really was. They knew instantly. They feared him. Also notice the combination of we and I, which is very typical. When Jesus spoke to the man in Gadara, he said, "What is your name?" singular. And he said, "My name is Legion, for we are many." This combination of I and we is very characteristic of demons. Verse 25, "But Jesus rebuked him, saying, 'Be quiet and come out of him.'" The Greek says literally, "Be muzzled, come out of him." And when the unclean spirit had convulsed him and cried out with a loud voice, he came out of him. Notice there were very dramatic physical manifestations. It was not the kind of behavior that was normal in the synagogue. Somebody once said to me, in most churches, what they would have done was put the man out of the church. But Jesus put the demon out of the man, you understand? And he left the man in the synagogue. Then we read the next verse. "Then they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, 'What is this? What new doctrine is this?' Or, 'What is this? A new doctrine with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him.' And immediately his fame or his reputation spread throughout all the region around Galilee." That is so true. The situation hasn't changed. If you begin to get manifestations of evil spirits and deal with them, the reputation will go all around immediately. It's a thing that still tremendously impresses people when they witness it. The thing that I want to emphasize there is Jesus did not deal with the man. He dealt with the spirit in the man, another person in that man. And there's no indication that the man had behaved abnormally before, you understand? It was the presence of Jesus with the anointing of the Holy Spirit upon him that brought out the unseen presence of the demon in the man. Now, the same day, later on in this chapter, in verse 32 through 34, we read a further development of his ministry. "Now at evening, when the sun had set, they brought to him all who were sick and those who were demon-possessed." Let me say once and for all, I do not like the translation demon-possessed. The Greek word is daimonidzomai. If I were to write it in English letters, it would be something like this.
I'm just going to stop this for a second. Because yes, I want to show another video. So this gentleman, Derek Prince, just said that that the possession or demonic possession from his perspective is that they are a number of people. So he gave a story where Jesus referred to a demon as them, or plural. Now I just want to play another video of a preacher that I've been following recently. But where is it?
Can be determined by word. Is gender really that simple?
Say it again?
Is gender can be determined by a word? Is it really that concrete?
Yes. Let me ask you a question.
What's your name? I'm Sophia. What's your pronoun? They, he, boy, boy, there, be there. That's a very interesting pronoun.
Okay, so you know what the word they means. There's only one of her. Amen. So they and he. You know what? That's demon talk. That's demon talk. You know why she's saying that? Because she's full of demons. Even when.
So I just wanted to play that because I remembered I watched that yesterday, and
we are Legion.
We are Legion. Yeah. Okay.
Nice way to link that
in. So I mean, yeah, it's interesting. But let's go back to David Prince before we go off, and we'll have a chat in a sec.
Why are there more kids as well? Why is he arguing with kids who probably in that country, and in most states they're meant to be over 18 for age of consent. Most of the people he's there arguing with, they don't even look old enough.
Yes. Well, he's not arguing; he's preaching.
He's preaching, yeah, but they're arguing.
Yes.
I should have used the word debate, maybe, but still, they don't even look old enough to have had any legal experience.
Well, I will say this, George, that from when I have spiritual conversations or religious conversations with atheists tend to react. We've all seen these movies which portray demons, but when they sprinkle spiritual holy water onto the person possessed and they start sizzling like a lump of bacon, you can see inside them conversationally they are sizzling away as if I've thrown some. And I'm not even like, I don't even push my spiritual beliefs. In fact, as you know, we've had this conversation. I try to portray as much neutral perspective online when it comes to religion and spirituality as possible. And I've seen it. Everyone, literally everyone, from Speaker's Corner atheists to people you see online, you start having a conversation with them, and they're reacting as if you've just drilled a hole into them. Why is that? Why are they not able to have? Like, look at Banksy came on. All right, Banksy came on into a live stream with us, and straight away his mode was, let's get into an argument. And it was only after about 30 to 40 minutes he realized that these guys aren't arguing, they're not even debating, they're conversating, and then he calmed down a little bit.
Yeah. It's like we just walked in the room shouting, "Power of Christ compel you."
He thought I was joking when I said to him on the live stream, I said, come onto the live stream and we're going to exercise your demons. We're going to relieve you.
Oh. Oh dear.
Maybe we should become preachers. Then we can go walk around. You can walk around the streets of Brum. I'll walk around the streets of London, and we'll just do. People have takeaway food. We'll do takeaway exorcisms, and we'll deliver them from their demons.
These street preachers are brave, though, aren't they? To stand there and do that in front of how many people from the alphabet community? It takes some guts, to do that.
I have an office in central London, and I was there once, right? And I was walking past the tube station, and there was this preacher, and I did do a live recording, but I walked away thinking I've got to go to other places and do a live stream. But I wish I had stayed. because I didn't get his name and I didn't know who he was, and I've not seen him since. And he was talking some amazing biblical stuff, some really good spiritual stuff. And I don't know how to find him now. Perhaps I should rewatch that live stream, see if there's any cue. But yeah, he was very brave, but he was pouring his heart out. And he was trying to use his own story to help people. But I will say this: that whether you're atheist or not religious, so that people just don't get the message, because people just hear anything religious and they start thinking, "Oh, here's a religious freak." What they're going on about. They don't try to understand the spiritual connotation, because you don't have to be a Christian to understand the spiritual connotations of the message. You don't have to be, Sikh to understand the spiritual connotation. That's why what I've always tried to do is understand the spiritual connotations first and foremost, and that's why I can interact with all different types of people. But incidentally, I was thinking about all the different religions. There's only 2 religions on this planet that are being attacked. Only 2, and that is Christianity in the West and Sikhism over in India. And from what I can see, the similarities of these 2 religions are just crazy. I mean, you can literally overlap the story of Jesus on Guru Nanak like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I'm sure Shivites, Jagannath in the chat, he's going to say, well, Jesus is Krishna and so on and so forth. That might be the same energy or the character. The point is, in terms of religion, there's only 2 religions being attacked, and these 2 are Sikhism and it is Christianity. And is that an indication that these 2 religions can deliver a powerful message to the people? Why is it these 2 religions being attacked, George?
Because these are the 2 religions that doesn't go with the current political agendas. These are the religions that don't want us to join Europe and unite, and they don't like it because there's too many people who follow the book rather than follow the government when it comes to these big decisions. They don't want us. They'll probably be rounding us up in a couple of years' time, the way it's going.
Yeah, and there's you can't argue anymore. The book of Revelations is now coming true.
Yeah,
you cannot argue. You have to be living in a very, very dark cave to not understand how the Bible is coming true, and even the Sikh scriptures are coming true. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure there's no doubt in your or any other Christian's mind, that it's being played out now. Do you think that is because the Bible truly foresaw this, or do you think these demons are using the Bible as a template to carry out what people's biggest fear is?
It's an interesting question. The only way I can see is it's kind of our fault. We're living in the modern day Babylon. If you look at in the book into the Old Testament, you got places like Sodom and Gomorrah, and you got Babylon, and the way that society is now is mirroring the societies that lived in those places in those days. I believe one of the last things that was legalized in ancient Babylon was gay marriage. And we're literally copying these ancient civilizations. Well, these ancient civilizations, I believe Babylon's been discovered in Iraq. They've got the tower there. And Sodom and Gomorrah, you can look, it's just dust now. But you can see they used to be buildings. They're buildings, they're full of sulfur that you can still set on fire. We've been to this stage before, and we've faced judgment. Why wouldn't we be facing judgment for the way the world is now?
Indeed. Okay, well said. Let's go back to Derek Prince and see what you can teach us.
Where daimon is the root and comes from the noun demon. You understand? So Idzamai is the passive, to be demonized. That would be the best translation, to be demonized. This translation, demon-possessed, has unfortunately obscured the issue for millions of people, because they say, how can a Christian be possessed by the devil? My answer is, a true Christian cannot be possessed by the devil. A true Christian is possessed by Jesus. However, in many true Christians, there are some areas where they are demonized, where they are afflicted and affected by demons. Areas in their lives and character where they are not themselves fully in control. And they are demonized, but not possessed by Satan. If we could just clear away that one obstacle of translation, we would be a lot further to seeing reality. All right. Now at evening, when the sun had set, they brought to him all who were sick and those who were demonized. And really, the New Testament hardly makes any distinction. And Jesus did not either. Almost invariably, he dealt with the sick and with the demonized in one overall operation. And the whole city was gathered together at the door. Then he healed many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he did not allow the demons to speak because they knew him. The King James and this version and various others use the word cast out demons. The translation I prefer is that of Phillips, where he uses the word expel, because that doesn't have a lot of religious connotations. It's simple, practical, down to earth. If you inhale smoke into your lungs, what do you do to get rid of it? You expel it. It's an action of the will, but there's also a physical aspect to it. That's what I like to use. I don't always use it, but that, in my opinion, best represents. He expelled many demons. He did not allow the demons to speak because they knew him. And then I'd like to read one more verse in that chapter, verse 39.
Okay, right. Really sorry about this. I'm going to have to. No, you can just give me 2 minutes. I'll just wrap up. Yeah. I'm really sorry. Just a meeting just walked in. Damn, God damn it! So I'm going to have to wrap it up. But before we go, have we covered everything in terms of potentially showing a pathway to people understanding that this demonic entities, these negative entities, which is not part of our persona, are kind of, how can we say, coming into our world and influencing us? Anything else that you want to add there, George?
The only way I can think that you can stop these entities coming in is through Christ. And you've got to find Christ. And the best way to find Christ is look at the biblical stories and then start looking for the evidence to prove these biblical stories are real and they're not fairy tales. I think you'll be amazed by how much from just Google searches you'll find. The evidence is there, cast in stone. And that's vaguely all I can say. Like Derek Prince says, Christ paid the punishment on the cross, and that's the only way I believe that we can get true salvation.
Cool. Before we go, I just want to point out, you influenced me into creating my new concept, as I've put in here, trusting God, not demons. I got that idea from, because you do have a very similar saying, but yours is more.
Excellent. The Americans ripped it off me. I've got In God We Trust on mine and under my belly button, and I think they've put it on the dollar bill since. I might have to sue them and see if I did it first.
So tomorrow, I'm hoping Jupiter will jump on. So tomorrow, I have a show on the 15-minute city. I shall share my screen and show everybody. So that again, at 9 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the new prison being created, the world's biggest prison. the 15-minute city. So that starts at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Let me put the link in the chat. But other than that, any final thoughts from you, George, before we end the live stream, my friend?
The 15-minute city. I
Yeah.
take it that's all to save the planet with nonsense then.
Save the planet, kill the people.
That's the one, yeah. When people realise we are actually the carbon that they're trying to get rid of, maybe
Exactly.
then we'll get somewhere.
Exactly. Okay, I'm sorry it's been a short one. We'll progress it tomorrow, but I'm going to have to end the live stream today. So hopefully, if you have time, George, do jump on tomorrow and give us your insight. That would be great.
I'll be about, mate. See you tomorrow.
All right. See you, mate. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.